We have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order.
Good evening, folks. You're listening to the Hour of the Time. I'm William Cooper.
The chair is against the wall. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.
Time, weather, and
Veteran of 3 foreign wars, entrepreneur, and warrior poet, Tony Arterburn takes on the issues facing our country, civilization, and planet. This is the Arterburn radio transmission.
Gotta let the intro music, gotta fade out for the audio to actually, there we go. See, let it fade out. Episode 546, the Arterburn radio transmission. It is the 25th of June, 2026. I'm joined in studio, ladies and gentlemen. Not only Beans the Brave is here, but Melissa is also here. She's visiting Denison, and she hasn't been on the show that she does the intro for in a long time. It's been years, so I'm glad you're here. Last minute, I've been really busy, and the state of the world, I was talking to Melissa earlier this morning, having coffee. I said that just everything is weird. And, you know, I remember if you go back to 2020 at the beginning of COVID 1984, and we just got up to Branson, like right before the lockdowns, and Trump signs the executive order March 13th, Friday the 13th, 2020. And we were listening on an audiobook to Stephen King's The Stand. You know, it's actually from the late 80s. He wrote this book called The Stand. It's about, they have this bioweapon that they call it Captain Trips, because somebody trips over in a lab or something, and something gets out of one of these bio labs in the Midwest, and it just starts wiping out humanity. And there's a scene in there that I didn't, when I was a kid, I watched the movie, and Gary Sinise is in it. And it's a really well done film. But in the book, I didn't realize this, but the character who's supposed to be like the Antichrist archetype is a guy named Randall Flagg. And they kind of give his backstory. He like shows up in different times in history, and whether it's extreme left-wing groups or extreme right-wing groups, and he just pushes people over the edge. That's what he does. But in the time where there's this great crisis or culling of humanity, they call him the walking man. And in the book, he starts talking about how he's wearing cowboy boots. And he's walking in the desert by himself. And then he realizes at a certain point during all this crisis and calamity that he can levitate again. And that thought stuck with me. Now, we're going to get into precious metals and markets and all that. I'll get into some political headlines, but it was this esoteric thought, strangeness and strange times came to me, because I say we're the official broadcast of the apocalypse, and the apocalypse just means the unveiling. It doesn't mean the end of time. It has a different meaning than Armageddon. And so in this book, and that reference always stuck with me. And I remember I was talking to an acquaintance of mine who is not a bad like practitioner of the occult, does magic and things like that, and just having a philosophical conversation. And I got into this thought of mine. I'm like, is the reason that these billionaires or the Klaus Schwabian types and all the Davos crowd is the reason that they want less people? Do people block out their ability to do like the frequency of magic that they want to do, which is a darkness? And I was talking to, and they said, absolutely, I don't agree with it, but we shouldn't talk about this on the phone. I remember that conversation. I thought, wow, I hit on something. And so I was thinking about this today because there's something shifting in the consciousness. And I looked at the headlines of Drudge, and just to kind of start off the show, we're reaching like whatever the spell was of the like Trump era. You can see that's all like there's entropy behind that. It's the second law of thermodynamics, and everything comes to an end, like it starts to grind down. So whatever the momentum was or the inertia was of that, and it reminded me of something. Uh, was it Margina Abramovich? You know, the high priestess lady, you know, that does all the magic and the occult stuff, and she said that Trump was like a high magician because he's an agent of chaos. And it seems to me that all of that, if that is true, or that somebody elevated him to that, that cycle is coming apart. And you can even go to if this isn't just regular partisan stuff, but these are headlines I never thought I would see. If you go to Drudge, I'll just pull it up here and then we can go to the actual articles. Let me put this up on the screen. Interesting times, ladies and gentlemen. Let me put this up. These are two different side articles on the headlines of Drudge. And the first one is, even QAnon hates Trump now, which I never thought I would see. I mean, it does. I'm sure in certain circles it goes on forever, infinitum, in perpetuity, because you can't fix that at some level. But that's a strange headline, and we'll maybe get in the article. But then the next one is Tucker Carlson excoriates the Don. Shut up, bitch. I don't take you seriously. This is something that Tucker Carlson actually said. And, you know, it's only 2026. This isn't like we're 10 years down the road. There is a vacuum of power like that. We can clearly see something stopped. And now the world, it kind of, in the culmination of all the bad ideas that have outflowed from whatever happened, like the beginning of 25 and the chaos of that. And I remember before I went on to Tinfoil Hats, December 4th, 2024 is my second appearance on Tinfoil Hat. So I was in studio, I was in California, and Bitcoin hit 100,000 for the first time. Then, of course, they're going to see the new administration, and we got about an hour and a half into it. And I'll have to pull the clip up sometime. But Sam Tripoli asked me, what is the second Trump administration going to look like? And I told the story about Croesus and who was the first king to coin gold. He wanted to attack Persia, all that stuff. He asked the oracle, what happens if I attack Persia, which is Iran? And the oracle tells him, if you attack Persia, a great empire will fall. And so he attacks Persia, and he lost his empire. She didn't tell him which one, which I always thought was such a great story because of the Twilight Zone consequences of it all. But that's what I thought this was going to be about. So we've reached this. We really did a loss of a political empire because of attacking Iran. And we're still not out of the woods yet. The damage that's been done, and you can see it in the schizophrenia of the market. Like the market doesn't know what to do. Like commodities have been disrupted, supply chains have been disrupted. You have at the same time in the periphery, you've got like AI and then SpaceX launch and all this stuff. So all this capital's chasing stuff, but the world is building infrastructure for the new monetary system. So that's a lot of stuff I want to get into with what's happening, like in the mechanism of it, right, is being built. But it doesn't reflect on prices, which we're going, whipsawing. We'll talk a little bit about gold and silver and Bitcoin prices, where I think we're pretty much at near a bottom of whatever that's going to be for now. And a lot of people are confused. I mean, even me, and I don't expect, headlines to have such a dualistic dichotomy, like where you have inflation data coming out that's worse than ever, and then you see gold and silver prices plummet. I think that's just part of the process in which we're in. But all of this, going back to whatever the collective unconsciousness is of humanity, like we're seeing things that in news articles and happenings that wouldn't have happened 25 years ago. And you know me since 2000, And I think we first met when we were in Kosovo together. If you don't know, Melissa was a medic in the Army at the same time that I was in my first deployment. That's where I met her. And we just think about that world and everything we've experienced, everything that we've seen, and just how insane it is now. Like we don't really get, because we're in it. It's like if you're lifting weights every day and you're changing and other people can see it, but maybe you don't see it because you're just seeing yourself all the time. It's like an example. Or if you're working on something, you don't really see the progress that you've made. But we're in this new timeline. And I don't know if you remember when I started this show, this is the second iteration of my radio career. When I started this, I had this feeling that things were going to be different than they've ever been. If you remember me talking about it. That's why I didn't want to have just another show. That's why I wanted to name it something different. I wanted to talk about different things, and we certainly did. And it was, I took a tagline from a Megadeth song and from a song called "Captive Honor," and it talks about "Welcome to Tomorrow." It's on that album of Countdown to Extinction. A great song. But I remember that from when I was a kid. And so we're in the Tomorrowland, and I'm glad you're here to join me for the show. And you sent me an article, and we can go into that about some new banking laws out of Georgia that I think are interesting. It's another kind of highlight, like, why you should be careful of keeping everything inside the banking system. You need to be outside of it. But I want to get into some of, just have a stream of consciousness show. I almost didn't do the show today because things have been so weird. David Knight took a day off and for family, and I told him, I said, that's great. I'll see you next week. But I always feel weird if I don't do the show, So I always feel like I got to put something down. And again, it's episode 546. I didn't want to just run a best of. So I'm here today with all of you. If you got questions, anything you want to talk about, I'm going to review the chat. Melissa's got stuff she wants to bring up too. And we'll jump into articles, just go over the Northeast, West, and South, the lay of the land. And, we'll exchange ideas together. I always say that the Worldwide Christian Radio and my streaming network, this is my support group. And what would you say, since I rarely have guests on, would you say how much, other than just talkative, because, I don't really talk that much, which is funny because people come to see me and in real life, and I don't say that much, but I want to communicate ideas on there. Am I much different in the 26 years or 27 years, am I much different on air than I am off air? What do you think?
Tony's a quiet guy. He's very different off air. I think it surprises people that come to see you. They expect, for you to be as talkative as you are on air, but otherwise you're a pretty quiet person.
Well, I think it was Abraham Lincoln that said, I'd rather remain silent and be thought a fool than to open my mouth and remove all doubt. I think it's sometimes just better to shut up. But when you run a talk show, which, by the way, if you develop the muscle and the ability to do an hour of live radio with really no safety nets, I usually just have articles or something to jump off from. If you can develop that, it's a great skill. There's not a lot of folks that can actually do it. I remember when I wanted to start talk radio, the actor Alec Baldwin had tried to do talk radio, and it's some of the funniest audio you ever heard, because he's used to just reading lines, and he can memorize lines. It's a lot. It reminds me of when you start an hour of radio, it's like it's just a void. You have to fill the void with ideas, and hopefully they're coherent and entertain the audience. And also, for me, you have to leave having learned something. Did you learn anything? And that's one of the things that I've developed over the years, is just trying to bring at least one thing from the transmission that you didn't know. And that's why I always like to start off with a little bit of high strangeness or whatever. I'm with you folks. If you're feeling the same thing I'm feeling, it's especially like there's an article up on Activist Post. And again, if I can get to it, I will. But it talks about this Godzilla El Nino weather system. This is Charlie Robinson's site. And I started reading that yesterday, and I just noticed the weather is weird. This is something like one of the things I noticed when I got back from Iraq, and this is like 2004 when I came back to North Texas. And something I never noticed when I was a kid, because I don't think it existed, which was the wind was you might as well Amarillo is always known for the wind, because of the panhandle and the plains and stuff. And I mean not the plains overhead, but like the plain, Texas high plains. The Llano Estacado is what it's actually called. And you always know Amarillo by the wind, but it was just so windy when it was insane. Wind kind of drives your anxiety and other things. Like it's just just overwhelming, and it's been that way. Now I think, like I look outside, just all the storms. Like there'll be a massive storm and then it'll go away. Have rain storm and then it'll go away. And it's bad. I guess it's better than drought, but there's so much going on and things we don't talk about, and you and I've been talking about for years and years. But that kind of stuff is also, and isn't it funny? Like a lot of the things that were just so fringe when 5, 6, 7 years ago, 8 years ago, whenever I restarted the show, that I talk about, and you just hear crickets. Especially being on mainline radio when I restarted in San Antonio. A lot of people don't, if you don't know this, I had a daily show. Like I would follow Mark Levin on Freedom 1160 weeknights. So I'd get off from the shop in San Antonio. Me and Layla would go to the studio there in Salem. I would do the show, and a lot of times it would just be crickets. But now that's mainline stuff. Oh yeah, weather engineering. Oh yeah, and I would talk about like Operation Popeye, and we were cloud seeding in the 20s, and Lyndon Johnson signing the executive order. Having the treaty signed about banning weather modification in the 60s. And that was just fringe stuff. Like, oh, that's such kooky thing. There's no such thing as chemtrails, and now it's just like, oh yeah. It's funny. You can be ahead of the folks. You can be ahead of the curve. You can talk about stuff way out years before it happens. And when it finally arrives and people talk about it, they go, yeah, well, what are you talking? It's just common knowledge.
Well, it's shifted. I feel like it's shifted from, those chemtrails don't exist. And it's shifted into, they've always been there now because of the manipulation that's going on with the media and with old movies being, redone to include chemtrails and lines in the sky and the background and things like that.
Yeah, it's interesting. We live in a time where so much is just what is the Schopenhauering steps of the truth. First it's mocked, then it's violently opposed, and then it's thought of as just common sense. Like, oh, did you know that's always been the case? Like just even conspiracy itself. And I think a lot of the things that I'm having trouble with in my own shows and research and other things, just being a part of alternative media, I tend to want to talk more about the monetary system and currency, and I can help with that. Like I can actually, that's insight that I can talk about. That's right there and it's real. There's not much, I mean, aside from hucksters and grifters, and there is that in the precious metals space, you generally get weeded out pretty quick. But in this space, in alternative media, it's just gotten really dumb. And I look around like the clickbait people, and then you got the new folks that they weren't around for the systematic banning. If you remember August 6, 2018, thousands of sites taken down simultaneously. InfoWars, of course, being the most notable one. And they were like stripped from podcast channels, stripped from YouTube, especially, and other high platforms. But they did that across the board. And it wasn't just right wing, it was every group that it would oppose the national security state or surveillance state or just deep state power in general. So it didn't matter what your political affiliation was. And if you talked about things that were outside of the accepted norm, I think they were kind of what you would do in any sort of kinetic war where you soften up a target. They were softening up the target zone for dropping COVID 1984, in my opinion, like everything leading up to that. So I've been on the air since then. A lot of that, and this reason, if you look at my YouTube, I have hundreds of followers because I was like anytime I played anything on YouTube, they would take it down. And I remember just even like associating my name with like David Knight. I'd run a David Knight show on some of my channels and it would just get taken down. So I just said, well, I'm just going to podcast. I'll do WWCR. I just quit worrying about clicks. Now they have all of this, like the new crop, which is fine. I'm happy for people. but some of it is real good, like genuine nuggets of wisdom, and it's wrapped around just garbage. And I'm like, that didn't happen, and that's not how that works. And just over the top stuff, and it's got to be, in my opinion, like approved because you're just kind of whitewashing the past or getting like making real research into hidden history and other things look ridiculous. So I don't know. I'm frustrated with all of it, as you know, like just off air. I'm been very frustrated with it as of late, and I'm like, I want to release a paratruth or I want to do other stuff, but I just kind of keep going back. Well, I can help you with knowledge of the monetary system. I know what's going on. I know what's going on with gold and silver. I know what's going on with crypto. At least that's something I can help you with. I don't know I'm not sensational enough to do the clickbait stuff. So I don't even want to start a TikTok channel. I don't want to do, it just, I've reached a level where I'll talk about it. Maybe, especially this is what art is for, is what the whole transmission is for, is just high ideals. But I just, again, me and you've talked about it many times. I'm reaching a point where I just don't know. I don't know what the space is bringing, and things have gotten so strange. The collective unconscious of everything just seems like we're in some sort of weird energy vortex. I don't know. Where should we go? You want me to bring up the articles on QAnon and Trump, or Chucker? What do you want me to do?
Why don't we take a look at that activist post article first?
You want to go to
Love me some Charlie Robinson. Why don't we check out what Charlie's got going on, and then we'll move into some of those others.
I knew you were going to do that. Let's see. Let's go to activist post. Where is it? It's on here somewhere. There we go. Activist post. Yeah, Charlie Robinson, good friend of the show, good friend in real life, magnificent human being, hard working guy. Go support him and subscribe to Activist Post. He put his own money in it. And in case you didn't, we're a proud sponsor over there. In case you didn't know, yeah. But this is where I got this article yesterday, and if you're looking at the show, if you're looking at the live feed, it really is a Godzilla weather monster. The Godzilla El Nino that has now begun to do trillions of dollars of damage to the global economy. Again, Michael Snyder, Economic Collapse blog. A very intense El Nino has formed in the equatorial waters of the Pacific Ocean much earlier than originally anticipated, and we were being warned that it could cause trillions of dollars of damage to the global economy. Considering everything else that is going on in our world right now, things that didn't have to happen, but things that did, right? That is really bad news. It is being projected that El Nino that has developed in the southern Pacific is likely to rapidly transform into a super El Nino of frightening strength. At the same time, a 9,000-mile marine heat wave has developed in the northern Pacific. Many people believe these two marine heat waves will combine to form a Godzilla El Nino, which will be unlike anything we have ever experienced before. Last week, we received official confirmation that El Nino has officially formed in the Pacific Ocean. And so it's, again, the warming cycles. And I just talk about how weird the weather is already and has been for years. They're obviously doing something, terraforming, whatever you want to label it. And it's interesting that we do talk about it, but a lot of it's just kind of like shrugged off. There's no big congressional hearings. This isn't on a political platform yet. It will be. This is one of the things I have predicted. Eventually you will have this being discussed because it will become so apparent. It'll be so over the top, whatever's happening with the weather. And people say, well, it's climate change, or global warming or whatever. And I've always said, well, I believe in climate change. I think climate change is real. You can look up and see that they're changing the climate. Like, that's something that I always thought would be good at a dinner party, when somebody's
Well, it also changes several times a year. We call it spring and fall.
well, yes. Yeah. When the weather does change, but it has been weird. Remember, you do off-grid gardening and all of that up on the mountain in the Ozarks. And you remember that it wasn't like a year or so ago. It's like everything just got scorched within a week. The way I guess the solar maximums or minimums or whatever it was. A lot happening there. Let's go back into the article. A powerful El Nino has officially formed in the Pacific Ocean, with meteorologists warning Thursday that it is poised to reach historic strength and intensity extreme weather events across the globe. The natural warming cycle is expected to exacerbate global temperatures already elevated by fossil fuel emissions and could supercharge severe weather patterns worldwide. The phenomenon is predicted to rival or even surpass the record-setting El Nino of 1997, which caused billions in damages through heat waves, floods, droughts, tornadoes, and wildfires. Hey, do you think this is why? And I wonder, did you see the report where Peter Thiel was like hitting the eject button of the United States? He's moving and building a compound in Argentina. This is the guy that gave you Palantir, has, contracts with intelligence networks all over the world, and the Palantir's from the Lord of the Rings. So you like can see into the future or the vast distance.
I just figured Nazis don't bomb their own people.
Yeah, that's true. The rat lines is what they call those, if you remember from Jim Mars's work, the Fourth Reich. And so, yeah, Argentina. A lot of people think that's where Hitler spent his retirement years. Even Joseph Stalin thought that, by the way. We had FBI reports on that, and Kennedy even looked into it. Maybe reason number 600 why they shot him in the head. But and I don't know if I should mention it. Should I mention the thing I was possibly working on with Gareth Ike? We may be thinking about doing a JFK. Okay. We'll save that. I get excited about it. I want to do real things.
Just given it
I think we can come back to it. The U.S. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration formally confirmed the existence of El Nino, a warming of the Pacific near the equator that profoundly affects weather patterns. He says this, Michael Snyder says, this wasn't supposed to happen yet. Normally, El Niños start once the summer is over, but this one is developing much earlier. Well, another thing about, like, and even when we talk about stuff like this, I don't like to just do fear for fear's sake, or just, that's what, if it bleeds, it leads. I've always tried to stay away from that. Me. But I do think that this whole system, the construct of what we think of as reality and whatever keeps the glue that binds everything, is like looking for a black swan. So I'm looking for a black swan. What is that black swan event? Like 25, the beginning of the year, we saw, especially after the inauguration, we saw this massive shift in global markets, and it has been nuts. And as somebody who's followed like financial stuff, the first thing was the threat of the tariffs. And to me, that was the black swan. Like, Trump had talked about tariffs, talked about manufacturing, all that stuff, but it was like souped up next level. And then it was weaponized, like an extension of weaponization of the dollar, which I don't think a lot of people saw coming. I started to notice, hey, you guys see what's happening. And I think both at the time, gold and silver had taken a massive hit, and everybody was crypto is the future, and it probably still is. But it was a different mindset. And David Knight and I were talking about this every week. And I go, I think there's a misreading here of what's actually going on. And as soon as I started talking, like, I don't think this is exactly what you think it is. All of these, the world of paper, gold, and silver started to come apart. That's still, by the way, that story is still going. But it was all the confusion about whether or not you could keep physical gold and silver bullion in these foreign banks and it wouldn't be tariffed on the way back in. Now, at the beginning of 25, that was a big deal. And then you had the blanket tariffs that he wanted. So to me, that was a black swan event, because it had this domino effect into every other part of the markets. And that's where we started to see, I think gold had an all-time high like 40 times in 2025. That's not normal. Like, everything that was happening. And this lead up and this culmination at the beginning of 26 of like all these bad ideas and all the policies and everything else, and the whipsawing of like, oh, we're going to have Doge and we're going to cut spending. No, we're not. We're not going to do that. It's not real. You're going to get a tariff rebate.
Poor Don Jeffries.
Yeah,
He's not getting his check.
we really wanted Don Jeffries to get his Doge check, but yeah, it was all of those things. So all that's abandoned. We in a short period of time, relative to the human experience, in a short amount of time, we have hit. We're in a new territory. We're in the Tomorrowland. So all this stuff going on, none of this holds water. Like we're building the new system for whatever reality is, and I'm not just talking finances, is being built right now. And that's where my mind was this morning. I'm like, I don't even know what I'm going to talk about. Like we go through the same articles, like, yes, inflation is the worst it's ever been. Yes, also gold went down. Silver's crashing. Bitcoin looks like garbage. I know it's every week I hear from you, like Bitcoin is pissing you off. Yeah, I understand. I hear that. I hear that all the time. All right, we're about halfway through the show. So
I'm going to keep buying it, though.
keep buying
I'm
Bitcoin.
keeping on my daily buy of Bitcoin, $15 a day.
Well, you have to remember, I don't think not everything is up into the. You've known me for a long time, and I always talk about this, and I've been talking about this for so many years. It's probably ad nauseum now, but not everything's up and to the right, whether it's life or your business or what. And so these prices and all, we're not factoring in just how. And I don't think the rest of the world looks at the world the way I do, obviously. And so I'm looking at it like none of this is sustainable. The markets aren't sustainable, currencies aren't sustainable, and I'm looking at what can't be manufactured easily or again, like Bitcoin or something. I think all that stuff has a story yet to tell. We're not. This isn't the end of anything. It's actually probably closer to the end of the beginning, something like that. All right, we're about halfway through, so let me see what the comments are looking like. Oh, there's Shelley Olmsted.
Hi, Shelley.
Shelley's a magnificent person. One of my friends now in California. Let's see if I can get to. Oh, I got a lot of comments. And Dustin Helms in the chat over on YouTube.
Hi, Dustin.
And Big Lucky.
Big Lucky.
Let's see. Yeah, I don't. Melissa, I always look on my desk from stuff that you wrote me years ago, and it always just like remember to plug, and I never do. I don't plug my stuff. I don't plug my own things.
Melissa.gold.
Yeah, you can plug.
I'm hearing
it. Shelley Olmsted said, a good Alec Baldwin tried a radio show. Yes, he did, and it's one of the funniest things you can ever hear. Just all I can imagine is his SNL sweaty balls skit. That's really good. That's funny. Alec Baldwin's funny. 30 Rock was funny. His favorite performance that I love was The Edge with Anthony Hopkins when he plays like well, I don't want to. If you ever want to watch the movie, I think you've seen it, but it's one of my favorite movies. I watched in theaters when I was a kid, and he plays a photographer, and yeah, just a weird guy, but it's a good film, one of his best. Let's see. Dustin Helm says it's a very frustrating time. A frustrating time for intellectuals.
Big Lucky says, love from Green Bay. I love Wisconsin. Cheese curds.
I haven't been in a while. Sorry, I had something in my throat. I think just either tobacco or coffee or something.
Dry air.
Dry air, yeah. Let's see. Well, appreciate everybody in the chat. All right, let's see what's on Rumble. Birdhouse Blue says, hi, Melissa.
Hi, Birdhouse Blues. There's Jason.
Jason Barker, supply versus demand cannot be denied. The prices are being manipulated, so get it while it's cheap. Hey, you're my man. You understand what's going on. It makes my job harder because I'm talking about, this is what should be and what will be. And people are like, yeah, but Tony, Have you seen the prices? I understand.
Does Jason have a dot gold? We should send some of the business his way.
I believe so. If he does, if you
He's
don't
always
have
been
one,
such a great supporter. He's done so much in the background for this show too, and for Tony.
oh, absolutely. Jason Barker, great man. Appreciate all his help. I don't thank the people in the background enough. I don't thank enough people. And I don't take you for granted. I literally
better
just
get
run
on
out of
top of that.
bandwidth.
You better get on top of that.
Birdhouse Blue says, excellent observations today, Tony. You're saying everything we're thinking too. Well, I appreciate that. Let's see. Well, lots of activity over on the Rumble chat, and I neglect the Rumble chat too.
Oh, Jason asked how the homestead's going. It's going good. It's going good. I got a huge garden this year. Having problems with black rot on my grapes, so that's something I'm going to have to learn about and figure out how to fix. But I've got cherry trees, plum trees, pear trees. You know, we had a very warm winter, and then right as everything started to bloom so that I could get some fruit this year, we had a really harsh freeze, and will have no fruit this year. No peaches, nothing.
Yeah, what do you think? Just the cycles aren't the same as far as the weather.
I would definitely agree with that. I remember you were talking about the wind earlier. I mean, I grew up in Topeka, Kansas until the 7th grade. I just remember, played outside all the time. I'm really sensitive to the wind because it's really stimulating. Like you said, it's highly stimulating. I know on a spiritual level, welcome the wind to blow in change in your life and everything like that. Pray with it. And, but I just remember it was a significant thing when it would be really windy when you were a little kid. You could lean into it, it would hold you up. Now it's like that all the time.
It is something different, and I've seen some of the people are nut jobs online, and some of them have great insights. So you have to. This is the thing about the internet in the age when you don't know exactly who's manufactured, who's not. Are you a real person? And one of the things that I had this dream last night, right before I went to sleep, and do you remember when I was on with Owen Schroyer in studio for the first time? And I think you were there, and we were at the InfoWars studio. This is back in like May of 2019 or something. And we got about 2 hours in, and Owen's such a great guy. We're having fun off air, and I'd never been actually in the studio. I'd just been a guest. And he said, "I'm going to ask you something when we come back from the break, because you said you can take anything from history and compare it to what's happening today." And I said, "Well, it's a bold claim. I'll see what I can do. I'm pretty sure I can." And we came back from the break, and he said, "Okay, since you can compare anything to history that happened, I'll give you a scenario, and then you tell me what that's like in history." And I said, "Okay." And he just looks into the mic, and he goes, "Deep fake porn." And I just immediately thought, well, this is about manipulation. And it's about, and I just went into like the story of how the Rothschilds had an agent that went back and started selling stocks at after the Battle of Waterloo, because they had intelligence agents there. That's the first thing I thought of, like one of the biggest manipulations in history. So, I just thought about that. But then I thought, as I was falling asleep last night, I thought, why didn't what's this? This is the stuff that how my mind works. It's insane. Like, I'm just thinking of stuff that I was talking about on air, 7 years ago. And I thought I should have just said, Obama was a deep fake president. Like he was a complete construct. Like, and we don't even know who this guy is still. I mean, it's so fun. Like, that's what I should have said. In my dream, I was talking to Owen again.
And he was a beloved public servant in Illinois.
I mean, but you get into the whole Bill Ayers thing, and like his family's ties to intelligence, like, and the fact that he came out of nowhere, and I was even talking to Gar Goldsmith on his show the other day. We were talking about the actress, I think it was Jerry Ryan. She was married to the guy who was going to be this next senator in Illinois, but like they had a divorce. There was like this scandal they had about she wanted to go to swingers clubs or something, and that like brought that guy down. And the guy that filled the void was Barack Obama. Like might not have heard of him. You know, it was interesting. So anyway, I had that. This is how my brain works, folks. I hope you enjoy the chaos of my brain. Sometimes you can learn something every once in a while. That's one of the only times I'm actually going to talk this week, probably. Okay, what do you want to go into?
Let's talk about that banking article I sent you.
You know, Melissa sent me an article on banking, and
From the U.S. Sun.
yeah, it's from the U.S. Sun. It's legit. Let me put it up. 1 second. This is another reason that I'll be talking about, you know, the banking system itself. And I never tell people like close your bank accounts, don't have a bank. I mean, I couldn't operate my business without banks. Like I need them, but especially, and I'll tell you what I'm going to do, folks. Like when we're off air, I'm going to start because of the dip in the gold and silver prices. If I've got any extra cash, it's going into gold. I got plenty of silver right now, so it's going to go into gold. And the reason is because I can hold that in my hand. I can put that in a safe. I can store it away. And whether prices go sideways or up or down, it doesn't matter. I've locked in that piece that I own forever, or as well for as long as I'm alive. And it's one of the things that to me just gives me a lot of peace of mind because I can use that anywhere in the world. Spot is spot. You know, I don't, whether you're in Boston or Bangladesh, you know, whether you're in San Antonio or Siberia, it doesn't matter. Okay, this is the article up on the Sun. Let's see. Fund freeze. Banks can automatically freeze accounts under new July 1st good faith law. I love the language. And can access can be denied up to 30 days. Well, I've had this happen too with like crypto. I remember the Bank of America once because we deposited some money orders from our own account when I ran a convenience store. They held my deposit account for 6 weeks. It was $30,000 in there, and I had to go borrow money to pay the bills of the convenience store I ran, and they just held it, and they just froze it, and there's nothing you can do about it. That's how fragile that system is. A bill allowing banks to freeze accounts for up to 30 days has been signed into law in one state. The legislation was proposed due to an increase in bank fraud impacting one specific demographic. And this time it's not the children. You always hear that for the sake of the children, you know, and I'm like, yeah, you don't care about kids.
No, it's our other vulnerable population, the elderly people. This is just unbelievable to me.
You know, Georgia Governor Brian Kemp signed a number of bills into law on Monday covering everything from school zone speed enforcement and policies for electronics at school to human trafficking. One of the signed bills, which HB 945, which covers financial fraud protection for senior citizens, as well as tightening cryptocurrency regulations. The new law allows banks and credit unions to temporarily delay transactions where there is reasonable suspicion of financial exploitation. Holds may be put on transactions involving an account held by an eligible adult on which an eligible adult is a beneficiary or an account of a person suspected of or perpetuating the exploitation. Well, is it just me or is it, I'm all for banks policing, and they already do this, by the way. This is called an SAR. So, like, say you're a bank and you see something weird, you file a suspicious activity report. A lot of banks already have this in place. We had a customer this last week that was buying gold from us out of New Jersey, and Chase Bank wouldn't wire the funds to us. Even though they looked us up, we're legit and everything else, they wouldn't wire the funds. And it took them like 3 days to finally get a wire approval for his own money. They're like, we've never heard of Wise Wolf. And only one other customer's ever wired from Chase. And I'm like, well, we don't do a lot of wires. We do wires out, or we have a free system where you can use our portal, you know, for your ACH, which is not a wire, but at least you don't have to charge you a fee. So maybe there isn't one, you know, we get a significant amount, but maybe there isn't one from Chase, but they held it for 3 days. It's your own money. Let's see. a hold is placed, the bank or financial institution must notify all parties authorized to access the account to any quote trusted contact on the account in writing within 3 business days. So they'll notify you. If the institution reasonably believes someone with access to the account may be involved in the suspected exploitation, they do not need to be notified of the freeze. The bank or credit union must also investigate the facts and circumstances that led to the hold. Well, this is, I think, one of those things I call a signpost on the road ahead. Like, to me, I like local banks. I think the banks that are too big to fail and too big to jail, I don't have accounts with those folks. But the stress, if you see like what happened after Silicon Valley Bank and the FTX thing and what they did after that, like there was a systemic pressure put on regional banks. And I think they'll do it. That's the first place you'll see the stress test for the banking system. The big ones don't really worry about it. And that's why they don't even really lend money. They don't have to. They operating on a completely different system and guidelines. And so it's funny. Yes, I did like a thought experiment with ChatGPT, and I'm like, well, could Wise Wolf be a bank? Could I do a state bank charter? Because when I was a kid, my dad chartered a bank as a national bank back before Texas banking changed, and it was like, well, this is what you would need, and we can't do it. But it would be nice to be able to have I can do a depository. I can do stuff like that, to help house people's, metals and things. But that's not going to be something we're actually able to do. The regulation is so over the top, like we wouldn't be able to pull it off. But I was even thinking
I
that.
warned you about talking to the clankers, Tony, and all they do is search the internet for answers. They don't always get it right.
I agree with you. We're doing our own answers right now. We're not using we're not AI generated, folks. I promise. All right. Well, I'm glad you brought this to my attention. I think this is one of those things you have to be, and there is a lot of fraud. I mean, I know this. I've seen people, especially being in the crypto business as long as I've been in, I've seen people and done my best to stop people. And we used to have Bitcoin ATMs, and in that space, there is not on the ATMs radar, like they're not doing it, but people will use fear tactics. I've seen that happen before. I remember a gal came in when I was in San Antonio, and she was just feeding like $100 bills in the machine. I said, "Is everything okay?" She didn't want to talk to me. And turns out she was being told to send a Bitcoin transaction. So a lot of stuff is on the person, and it's sad. People will do that in Bitcoin, unfortunately, because it's irreversible. It's been used that way. It's a small fraction of actually what actually goes on. My new system, when I do Bitcoin, like we don't allow that to happen. Like there's never going to be through Wise Wolf, like you're never going to have an actual like fraud is never going to happen through us, because every transaction we monitor even where the wallet is. Like it doesn't happen, but that does happen. And a lot of people that, especially elderly, that they do target them. So fraud it does take place. But I think it'll be just harder and harder to bank in the future. I think it'll, less and less security of what's actually in it. And, regardless of FDIC covering or anything like that. That's why I think Bitcoin offers a great technology for people, electronic, off the grid, like have your own wallet, be your own bank. And of course, gold and silver as well. So something to be on the lookout for, folks. What else? We got about 12 minutes. Do you have anything else you want to cover?
Oh, do you want to go into the Tucker Carlson thing, or is what you said earlier enough on that? I don't know what to make of Tucker, so.
Well, I think in the realm of alternative media, he's finally here. Like he's, for a long time, he was vehemently opposed to any 9/11 truth. He's certainly not there now. He's reversed all of those stances. I know his dad had, ties to the CIA and all that stuff for the Radio Free America and all that stuff. I look at it as a positive. I think the perfect is the enemy of the good in a lot of ways. I give people the benefit of the doubt. And if you are plugged in, especially people that have followed him from Fox News, he's opened the doorway for them to look further into things. I mean, just, he had conversations recently like people need to stop paying don't pay the banks don't pay your credit cards. Don't
I
pay
certainly love what he's saying, but I just wonder if I'm being manipulated.
Well, it's you have to be vigilant. And I certainly don't get behind like a cult of personality with people. And through my own experience, just being in media for as long as I've been, and I've get to sit down with people like David Icke, and the Icke family, like that's like an extraordinary opportunity that I loved, and everyone that I've met has been genuine, like people like David Knight, and even working with Infowars and stuff. I mean, I never was an actual employee. I was a fill-in host and a guest, but you know, um, Alex certainly, Alex Jones trusted me to be a host for as long as he did, and I don't have anything, I mean, I don't certainly agree with Alex or anything on a bunch of stuff that he was doing during that time with Trump. I'm certainly disagreed. It's probably why I wasn't back on. But I have nothing bad to say. I mean, it's his network. So everything I've done, I mean, I've been through this, like whatever this experience when alternative media or conspiracy research, I've been part of that, and some really genuine people like Charlie Robinson and Don Jeffries and Billy Ray Valentine and um, you know Sam Tripoli. Just it's an adventure. So I don't know. I'm sure I'll keep doing this show um, in perpetuity. I have no plans of stopping art anytime soon. I think it's when we're firing on all cylinders, it's a good show, and you can learn something. And it's a wrap up or a kind of a snapshot of what's happening in that week. So the archive I can always go back to, something there for legacy. And hopefully I'm right. Well, actually, hopefully I'm wrong about a lot of stuff, but hopefully I'm picking up on something that's relevant. Something to look at, and that's always been my hope. Like I'm not here to change your mind. I'm here to ask questions and have a conversation and talk about the big ideas. That's what I've always been attracted to. I can never go back to. I mean, I tried, if you want to call it that. I tried politics, and I can't imagine that. It's funny. I try to do. I keep myself from like I try to continue to burn bridges so I can never get back. Like on a subconscious level, I'm like, what would really help you not be able to ever run for office? You should get a hand tattoo. So I'm like, yeah, I should do that. And so I would, so I do stuff like that. Like you should just look a little sketchy. And I'm like, just in case you ever want to throw money away again, just burning those mental bridges to keep myself from doing. But I think I've as I meditated lately and just thinking, well, what's the next step in this crazy time? I'm going to do more and more. It's something I've learned doing shows with David Knight, and because that experience every week, like it's not every week that I'm on with David. I try to go on Thursdays with him, and if you've never been on with David, he's so smart. His wealth of knowledge, and you rarely meet people like that. And he's just as genuine in person. Like he's the real deal. And I mean, it was hard to fill in for him. Like when I filled in for, like it takes a certain amount. Like it took a lot out of me. I remember like when I remember that week when I filled in for the whole week down in Austin in 2020. I'd wake up at 5 a.m. I'd go into the studio. I'd get there like 5:30, and the show would go live at 8, and then we'd be off the air at 11 because Alex would come on. And I remember that when I was done that Friday, I mean, it just wiped me. It was a 3-hour show, and just filling in for him and coming on with him during it's a challenging thing. And what I've noticed is I just keep going further and further talking about monetary issues, which is I think it's more of my calling. You know, we can go into the high strangeness and stuff, and I'd like to do that with Mr. Anderson, you know, with Duke. I like to go on and do that show with Paratruther, and it's just more and more though. I just see that's probably more the future. But I want to keep art. Like I just think this is and for all the audience that sticks around, I know how many people, you know, we get listeners from all over the world. Like if you actually look, not well, especially WWCR. I don't know. That's 100,000 watts of shortwave that goes around the globe. I actually took over on WWCR, which was Bill Cooper's home station. You know, Behold a Pale Horse, and I took over the slot that Alex Jones had. So Alex had this time slot. So we're broadcasting on the frequency of what InfoWars used to broadcast on before, you know, the lawsuit and all the stuff that he went through in the last few years. So I actually took that Thursday slot. So we talked to a lot of people. The downloads, you know, it's an eclectic mix. My support group, I mean, people in Europe, Africa, South America. I'm still waiting for a ping on Antarctica. I haven't gotten that one yet. I'm waiting for the ping. Whoever's living inside the pyramid in New Schwabenland needs to download the show.
Well, after spending a week in Texas, I might head to Antarctica next for a little cooler weather.
Yeah, she's been in Texas, and we've loved having you here. What did you think of Pumpkin the cat?
Oh, what a beautiful girl! I love her. I got a black cat sticker with bat wings over at Main Street Mall.
Good.
I'm gonna give that to Houston.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, I have a black cat who wandered into my house right before I moved. We had a little house near downtown, and Houston had the door open. This is in October, right before Halloween. And this black cat just comes in, gets on Houston's lap, and completely ignores my dogs and my Chihuahua. You know, Beans. She likes to tell cats to get away. Like that's her specialty. I'm not going to say who trained her to do that. Somebody trained.
It was an accident.
It was about feral cats on the porch in San Antonio. Anyway, Beans didn't quite know what to do with Pumpkin. And Pumpkin looked completely serene, but obviously it's like she's feral or stray or something. She had has a little ear clipped. So she'd been, they did the catch and release for her to be spayed.
I don't think she's feral, but definitely a stray who had been around people. She's real sweet. And
I just said, well, she was so comfortable. I don't think I can turn you out, so you're going to go live at the bank. And so Pumpkin now went from the streets to living in Wise Wolf, and I don't think she doesn't try to run away. She just hangs out at the bank. So
you open the door and she stays right there.
I'm glad you got to meet Pumpkin.
Everybody. Just watch out when you walk in. She's right there.
All right, folks. Well, couple minutes left, and I will go ahead and plug a little bit. Obviously, next week we'll be back with a regular show. I didn't want to leave you with the best of today, and so hopefully you enjoyed just a little bit of the chaos and the back and forth with Melissa and I. I'm glad that you're able to come on. It's always a treat. The intro, that is Melissa, and I have neglected to put on, some of the other intros and outros that you did back in San Antonio. Some of them are just great. I remember we had one with the A-Team. The thing is that when I play these, the problem is the copyright. We used to be on the radio, so I could pretty much do whatever I wanted as long as it wasn't over 60 seconds. So a lot of my intros and outros were really cool. And we have one that you did I think is my favorite, where you quote Leon Trotsky. And I was like, I remember when we did all the recordings, I was like, you may not be interested in war, but war is interested in you. And that's what we used to start the show off with. But anyway, great to have you here, and thank you for that. And we'll keep, every time you listen to the intro, that is Melissa. And we need to do a new one. I think it's time for that. I like the archive. Maybe we keep some of the old stuff, but I think we need to do a new one. There's a lot of, the world is a little different. Maybe we can recalibrate for that. So we shall see. But Arterburn.gold is the website if you want to get in touch with me. Ideas for shows. I don't think anybody's left a review, but if you want to leave a review on Apple Podcasts for either Paratruther or the Arterburn radio transmission, if you leave a 5-star, you can say anything you want. I'll read it on air. That helps the algorithm. YouTube at Tony Arterburn, X at Tony Arterburn if you're listening to the transmission on shortwave. If you want to see the video, Rumble, the America Unplugged channel. And of course, if you want to exit the fiat system and Luciferian bankster notes, you want to get yourself out of that system. Even, by the way, the price is, this is when you buy, folks. If somebody discounts a Ferrari, you don't think, well, it's not a good time to buy because I want to wait for the prices to go up on that Ferrari. You buy the Ferrari. If you're looking for that, you buy it when it's cheaper. And that's the same thing with gold and silver. So wisewolf.gold, and you can find the link there to my other company, which is Wolfpack Subscription Services. You don't have to be wealthy to get into gold and silver. You can look at one-time packages or subscriptions, $50, as low as $50 for adults. And then you've got for the kids, even if if the kid in you wants to get a Wolf Cup, I'm cool with that. It's $35 for the Wolf Cup. So as little as 50 or 35, and you can get into the, as Sam Tripoli says, the precious metals game. We appreciate him. All right. We'll be back next week, folks. You guys take care of each other.
Thanks for having me.
Anytime. End of transmission.